Yeah,
We
we've
are
gotten better.
we're live right now. So what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Mon Goals show, sponsored by Roughneck Scarves. I'm Mike. With me is Kevin. Josh. The Hounds lost 1-0 to Charlotte in the grand reopening of Highmark Stadium, and we're going to break it all down. But first, Josh, you were there. Let's talk about the atmosphere, man, because we're going to talk about the game. We're going to talk a lot about the game. But what was it like to be back in the parking lot and then in the Paul Child stands at Highmark Stadium?
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was like, so I was saying earlier, like afterwards, we're driving back. It's Liz and Kyle, the vice president of the SEAL Army, and me. We're just driving back. And it just dawned on me. I was like, it felt weird that it didn't feel weird. Like being in the stands, being like, it's almost like you could forget in the moment that you had not done this for a year. Like it felt like just like the off season happened, and like last year didn't exist. So it was that in that aspect, it felt like just great and normal, which is why it felt weird, is because like you afterwards, you're like, wait a second. Oh yeah, this is not normal. Like this is like, it's been a while. So yeah. And the tailgate, we didn't really have like a full on tailgate. So it wasn't like we were cooking and like, on the grill or anything like that. But it was nice just to see everyone in the parking lot and kind of just hanging out, talking and just catching up with everyone. So yeah, it was fantastic to be back. If it wasn't for the result on the field, I think, that would have been one of my favorite games I've been to. But unfortunately, there was also a game that we have to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, it looked like, at least from all the camera angles, it looked like the Steel Army was bumping. I'm guessing in terms of if the team would have scored, was there smoke or no smoke? I totally missed that.
Yeah, there actually was. And like we were talking about, I feel like if we were still having a situation where everyone was wearing masks, probably shouldn't have done smoke. Personally, I don't think so, at least because like I can't imagine getting the smoke in your mask and then like you have that smell with you the rest of the game. That would have sucked. Yeah. So maybe if we had masks on, like it wouldn't have been. But since they lifted the mask policy for vaccinated patrons, we were like, okay, we can do it. And like they were cool with us doing it. We have all the paperwork done where we have the certain people who are allowed to allow smoke and all that kind of stuff with the front office. So yeah, it could have happened, but it did not happen, unfortunately.
I will say that it was one thing where even my wife, who will like watch games, but she's not really into it. She walked into the room and she could hear the Steel Army and she just said, it's really nice to hear the Steel Army. Like to actually hear people in the stands again. You never think that you'd appreciate it until you miss it for so long, and then it comes back, and it was like, oh, yes, that's amazing.
We had a tifo. We had a 3-piece tifo that we were able to do. It actually was from the 1920s. It was a saying that was on the side of, I can't remember, next to the railroad tracks, but I can't remember. That's everywhere in Pittsburgh. But it was, what I do for myself is what I do for my family is duty. And what I do for Pittsburgh is unselfish, patriotic, and 100% Yinzer. The original sign didn't say Yinzer, but, we added that in there. Yeah. So it was good. It felt great.
Good. Well, now that we got that sort of under our belt, hopefully we get more restrictions that should be lifting soon.
Yeah, they have regular game tickets on sale starting today. So it's no longer just like, the season ticket holders only or anything like that. They're expanding capacity. They haven't said the number for sure, I don't think. But today was the beginning of like, if you just want to buy a ticket, you can just buy a ticket now.
Yeah. And our next home game will be not this upcoming Sunday, but the following Sunday against Austin Bold, which should be another good match. So that is, if you don't have your ticket yet, there's your cue. Go get a ticket for that game and get down there and get back to some sense of normalcy. Guys, real quick before we get into the game, I just want to touch base. The Premier League is officially ended. That was sort of our the Band-Aid to help us get through the off season with the piped in crowd noise and all of that. There were some fans at the last few games. Kev, after all of the woes, Liverpool ended up finishing third. So congrats, I guess. I don't know. Josh, Everton was at 10th and Villa was at 11th. So
I don't know if you saw the game or saw any of that game for Everton. It was like 5-0 or something like that. It was terrible. I didn't watch the second half. After the first half, we're like, oh, we have to go? Darn. So only got the first half of that game.
Yeah. And it just makes me disappointed that Jack Grealish was out for so long, because he came back and we beat Tottenham and then Chelsea in the last game when Chelsea needed the win until like the last 15 minutes. Otherwise, they weren't going to be in a European spot. So, like, high hopes for Villa next season. So, yeah. That's your Premier League catch-up. Guys, the Hounds lost 1-0 to a 10-man Charlotte. I mean, if we get into takeaways, for me, the man of the match was VTLO. And when your team loses and your man of your match is your keeper, that's probably not a good sign. So
I just want to second that, because like he had some fantastic saves that first half, and he was right in front of the Steel Army. And yeah, just watching some of those saves, the double save he had near the beginning, that was awesome.
Yeah, for sure. The leapfrog sort of jump two-handed punch, and then the fallback on the second save was really, really good. So,
did you just put up a comment by yourself made on Twitter?
No, I'm not. I don't tweet while we do the show, Kevin.
Because that would be a next level like production. Like this.
It didn't help that I said it's awesome as soon as it popped up, and I didn't notice it. Like, I just looked at it, I'm like, why are you showing what I just said?
No, shout out to Mike with the Apple logo next to his name on Twitter, who put up it was awesome. So
sure, Mike, yeah. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, all right, Kevin. What was one of your takeaways? Nope, stop drinking. You're not allowed to drink. What was your takeaways from this game?
Well, I guess going back to the VTLO stuff, someone posted the and I think the Mon Goals account retweeted it or something, so maybe you know exactly who it was, but someone posted like the XG for this game.
That was our buddy John from USL Tactics.
Okay, there. And what I think with the XG for us was 2 and the XG for them was 1. And so like that was a really interesting. I had a certain emotional reaction to this game, and then I saw those stats, and it kind of made me go back and kind of reassess the game and watch the highlights again and watch some clips and kind of think about it in a more deep way. And at least from there, okay, look, stats aren't everything. They're there to just maybe provide supporting, I don't know, evidence and ways of thinking about the game based off of what we've seen with our eyes. It did seem like, VTLO made a bunch of great saves. The stats would suggest that they were saves he should have made in general, just from the expected goal tallies and counts. And I think all of that gets kind of amped up by the crowd being there for the first time, by being the season opener, and I don't know, Charlotte being the way Charlotte is and having their bench react the way they do. And I think they look like they're better saves than they are, in my opinion. And so while he did seem busy, like, I don't know, the whole double save, he made one save and then backtracked, and it was rolled into his chest. I think the commentators made a point about he made 2 double saves now. No, they weren't 2 double saves for me, at least.
I'm still. Go ahead, Josh.
All right, 1. Come on, that was a good double save. I'm just saying it was good saving. It could have been much worse. That game could have been easily way out of hand after that first half if it wasn't for VTLO. But second off, I'm kind of new to the whole XG thing. I don't even know anything about this. What is XG? How's that work? Because I'm sure a lot of people saw that. They're like, yeah, cool, XG. I don't freaking know. So can you explain what XG is and how it works?
From my understanding, so it's an understanding that okay, when it takes into account where the shot is being taken, how many opposition players are between you and the shot, it takes into account the goalkeeper position, and it looks across all other scenarios across all other teams in the league and does this kind of calculation and says, okay, what percentage of time does a shot taken in this location on the field with this many people in front of you, and so on and so forth, how many times does that go in for a normal average USL player? And then it kind of just tallies that up. So it's a way to say on average, with all the shots taken in the places that they were taken, Charlotte on average, when you take into account all other games, I don't know, maybe it's like, I'm sure they go back in time somewhat. They should have scored 1 goal.
So when this game was 2.05 versus 1.09. So Riverhounds had 2 points. So we should have had 2.5 goals or 05 goals. Is that what that means? Okay.
Yeah. They should have in those scenarios where we have shot, and where we took the shooting positions, on average, they tally all that up and calculate it. And
cool. I had no clue. I've never even seen that before. So
yeah. It's part of this new wave of data analytics in soccer, and there's a bunch of numbers, and a lot of it is, and I'm sure I didn't help it there, but some of it it's like it doesn't get communicated well, and it kind of separates communities a little bit, and it shouldn't be that way. But so I don't know. That was my only point around VTLO. But I think the other thing too, he was the Golden Glove winner last year. He's a very good keeper, and maybe, I don't know, I'm just like, I'm
still waiting for the video of him taking shots on you, because that has to happen now. Like, when you come in, that's gotta happen, and that'll be it. We won't hear you say anything about VTLO from then on out. So it'd be great. Now, I mean, look, when the game was over, I think I said to you guys in chat that I wish I could bottle how I was feeling in that moment and just bring it to this episode. But of course, after 2 days, and this is why we do it this way, is so that it's not gut reaction. And Liz wanted us to specifically apologize because she did record a full 90 using a new audio recording tool, but then we couldn't upload the audio. So we're going to get that worked out before the next one. So we will have immediate reactions for the full 90 for the next home game. And we'll go from there. But when that game was over, the only thing that was going through my mind was I just watched the worst game in the Bob Lilly era that the Hounds have played. Now, the weird thing, and we were talking about this off air, is if you go back and you look at the stats don't necessarily bore that out. And when I was talking to our buddy
John, in the context though of Charlotte going down to 10 men on 65 too.
There's part of that there too. Yes. But, I was talking to our buddy John from USL Tactics, who I tried to get on the show tonight. He had a scheduling conflict, but we will have him back on. We had him on in the off season. It's 3 games in. So I don't think anybody is panicking at this point, but his notion was that, the defense still has plenty of time to gel. There were a couple of things that the offense was doing well in transition, and we're half a step away from this game being 2-1 or 3-1 Hounds. And then are we having the same conversation? I think my argument would be that I saw enough on the field, regardless of the scoreline, that I would be concerned. And I don't know if you guys feel the same way. Josh, what was your take from, in the stands, what you saw?
I mean, it did not feel like a good game at all. And I feel like I'm getting gaslit by everyone afterwards, because after the game, I remember thinking that was terrible, that was horrendous, I can't believe we still can't beat them, blah blah blah. And I'm looking up history of home openers, because I feel it's we just suck at home at the beginning of the season, what's going on? And then I see the press conference with Lily, and he's that's the best game we've had all season. I'm what? And then John from of USL Tactics, him saying oh yeah, this is what could have happened. This looked these opportunities were great. Only one defensive error, and that's why they got a goal on a header. Blah blah blah. I'm man, I was all ready to be upset, and I'm gonna smash that button. I was panic, done. And then within 24 hours, it's I guess and I went back and watched some of the game again. I couldn't catch the whole game, but yeah, it's not panic. I get it, and it's only 3 games in. And looking at our history of 3 games in throughout the last 10 years or 5 years or whatever, it's not as bad. It's
hold on, because you actually pulled up these stats earlier. If we're just looking, it's 3 games. I know everybody's gonna go, it's only 3. I get it, but if we look back in the Bob Lilly era, starting in 2018, In our first 3 games in 2018, we had 5 points. First 3 games in 2019, we had 2 points. First 3 games in 2020, we had 7 points. This year, we have 1 point. And for those of you who watched sort of our last show before the season started, Liz said, I think we're going to have 6 points after the first 5 games. And I think all of us were like, you are crazy. And
not everyone.
Kevin's like, I'm never optimistic.
But here's the thing. We're sitting on 1 point. We've got 2 games left. We're going to go play New York Red Bulls on Friday and then travel to Loudoun next Wednesday. Short of us getting 2 wins there, we're not going to hit 6 points after our first 5 games. And is that okay? Okay,
counterpoint. What year did we only have 2 points within the first 3 games?
That was 2019.
What year did we get first in our conference?
2019.
Yeah, it's really hard to be like, oh man, this is really worrying. Like freaking, we're 1 point below what we had in 2019. In 2019, we got first in the conference. It's not exactly like the panic button needs to be pushed, but there's definitely issues. Like I don't think anyone's like, yeah, we're good. It's like there's issues, but it's definitely not gloom and doom right now.
So in terms of what we think needs to be fixed, like if we are to sort of turn the page, it sounds like we all sort of saw things, although Kev, I didn't give you a chance to talk. It sounds like we all sort of saw things that we weren't thrilled with. So what would we like to see change that we think will help to get us on that front foot and start getting some points? Kev?
It felt like we were still, I mean, and I don't know, this goes back to like the timing, like the time to gel or whatever. But it felt like all the players still had to kind of think their way through the games and it wasn't coming natural. Link up play wasn't happening natural.
Well, hold on. I think that the attempt for the link up play was there. The passes were all just half a step short. Like it felt like we would try to do stuff and then Charlotte would jump in and intercept because the ball was just a little too far behind or a little too far ahead.
It felt like a lot of, I guess, I don't know. It felt like a lot of times to me at least. And this is my general kind of, one of my worries is it feels like the fact that Forbes wasn't in the lineup. I think we were hoping, and I think they still have the ability to, they just didn't necessarily show it against Charlotte. It felt like that midfield after 20 minutes was, for me, just very workmanlike. And, you know, I like Danny Griffin a lot. I think he's a very good, like, box-to-box midfielder, but he doesn't have, Mike, you were mentioning, like, maybe he's going to step up and kind of fill that, like, you know, playmaking role that Kenny has. To me, I mean, he didn't show it against Charlotte. I don't think anyone showed it against Charlotte. And it at times it felt like it was too, like, you know, it was too much like the back line was just playing long balls up to Cicerone and Dekwa, and they had to fight for it and scrap. And then we would get moments where, you know, I don't know, it just kind of felt like in the times where we created chances in the game, we just like happened to be around their box. It didn't feel like there was a nice kind of build up play where we put ourselves in positions for that. It's just, I don't know. I think that's my worry is right now. I don't see a lot of good, I don't know, link up play between a lot of the players.
So I don't disagree with you at all on that, but I would also counter with how much of that build up play did we see last season with the Hounds? Which, again, we were all sort of like, I don't know. There was a lot of, like, long balls over the top to Duba, who then, you know, either does something with it or you have Dekwa streaking in or Mensah.
Yeah, no, I mean, that could be reasonable. I guess I just maybe I saw it a bit more when Kenny was on the field. And this is probably, I'm going back with probably, like, you know, tinted hindsight glasses of just like, well, Kenny was playing, so it was probably better. Like, I don't remember.
Hold on, that leads into a question from Burger Brand. Would we have won if Kenny was playing, or at least look better? I feel like with or without, we didn't play well. I don't think, like, there were a couple people that made the comments online where it was like, oh, you really missed your boy Kenny today. I don't think Kenny would have been the deciding factor in this game.
I disagree. I disagree. I think if we had Kenny on the, like, if the question is, would we have played better with Kenny? I think the answer is always yes. Like, I don't think it matters.
I don't disagree with that.
Like, he's starting for a reason. He's our, like, captain. Like, he's gonna be there for a reason, and we would have played better. Now, how much of a difference? Okay, would we have won without him? Let's say that. I think it's very possible. I'm like, I don't know what kind of creativity we would have had in the midfield if he would have been there, versus what we had here. And going a little bit back to what you were saying about last year and how we didn't really have build up out of the middle, and like it felt like we were just dumping the ball forward and praying. That's kind of the forwards we had that year were the bigger forwards, the ones that could demand, like, get the headers and kind of like just be more forceful up top. Whereas this year, they're, Lily has said he's making concerted effort to have more finesse players up top and more of that build up play. So, like, yeah, it was different last year, but that's because that was the plan last year. That's not the plan this year. Like, we don't have the clientele up front to do what we did last year.
I think he would have. I think Kenny would have shined a lot more to
Shine did.
Shine did? Okay, Shine did. A lot more when Charlotte went down to 10 men too. Because that's the moment where, especially them being one up, they didn't really threaten again after they got the red card. And yeah, to have someone on the field with his level of creativity and technical skill to pick out the pass, and even just some set pieces too. Although I think Cicerone's delivery was pretty good on a lot of the set pieces. Yeah, I think that was tough, and I think it was made a bit more difficult. Where no, I was going to say Velarde. I'm not really convinced by his ability to kind of fill that role either. I was going to say it wasn't helped when Velarde was subbed out for Williamson, because it felt like if anyone, he was going to be the midfield creativity that kind of unlocks something.
I'll make the argument. I think Perez stepped in and did a good job, and I think Perez is start worthy moving forward. If we're looking for some creativity, he just seemed, especially towards the end of the game, the passes he was delivering, he seemed calm on the ball. Like, I don't know if it's just the fact that he's a rookie and so Bob's trying to ease him into it or what, but I think he could fill those shoes. But go ahead, continue your thought.
No, I guess my thought, like a more general point, to kind of take a step back and maybe digress a bit. I think the reason why, I mean, Josh, going back to like you feeling gaslit through all this stuff, I totally empathize and get where that's coming from, because I think, okay, so like first home game after a year of not being in stands, after a year, and like there was so much occasion and so much build up to like, all right, we're back in, we're home, we have all these great players coming in, we're going to go in, we haven't, won a game so far. This is the game we're going to win. And then to, in my opinion, at least at the beginning, start a little flat. Charlotte goes down to 10 men. You're thinking, this is perfect, right? Like everything's set up and you still can't score. I think it's just everything around it just felt like very like, oh, come on. Like, and I think that was the feeling around it, even though, I think Cicerone has like the shot on like inside the 18 coming off the right with his left foot that, he gets good contact with and the keeper just makes a good save. And, there are one or two others where, we did well, but yeah, I think that was the reason why it felt bad. And in the moment, I also remember thinking, because I think that like the last 10 minutes of the game, at this point, Charlotte was down to 10 men since what, like they got like 65th minute or something? Yeah.
66, yeah.
And in the last 10 minutes of the game, like I didn't think we were going to score at all. Like it looked so flat and we weren't creating any chances. And that was the most frustrating part is, yeah, we want to see some momentum. The fans are in the back of the stadium. We're down to 10 men. We have to attack. We have to create chances, and we just weren't creating chances, and that was really frustrating.
Look, the announcers who were not Gene, Paul, or Matt, which I think we've discussed on the show here, they were literally laughing that the Hounds could not connect passes on the feed in the last 10 minutes, and it was just like, Great. Thanks, USL. You guys are the best. Appreciate it.
Well, and also didn't help that like I felt like, especially near the end there, and we're all out blitz attack. Like we have to get this goal. We have to get this goal. I felt like too many times instead of going towards goal, we passed it to the sides and like or back, and like no one. It didn't feel like anyone was hungry for a goal. It felt like everyone was afraid of making a mistake and missing a goal.
I agree.
We played afraid again. And I
Yep.
feel like that's what's happening a lot is we're playing afraid and we're not taking those chances. And instead of trying to be greedy, like, a forward should be, let's be like, you kind of need your forwards to be greedy. A lot of times it's like, maybe not. Maybe I'll pass it back because maybe you'll have a better shot. It's like, go for it, especially when you're in the box. And like, yeah, it was just too many opportunities to actually take a shot. We're just left and like abandoned.
Let me ask you this. I don't know if you guys, I know, Josh, you tend to read the agenda. Kev, not so much. But if you had to guess how many shots we had in this game, take a guess. Is it single digits? Is it low double digits?
I looked it up before.
Oh, did you? Josh, did you look?
Yeah, sorry.
We had 18 shots in this game. Like 18. I was like, what? Like, mind blown, because now granted only 5 of those were on target, but like they counted 18 shots in this game, and like to me I was like, where did that happen? Because I totally missed that. So I don't know,
but I mean I think a lot of it was like I remember one in particular. Was it from it might have been from Williams, who is like 30, 35 yards out and he just takes a shot. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, don't like, I don't know. Unless you're banging those in at training, like consistently, like,
or it's the dying moments of the game or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, there were more opportunities though. And I'm thinking that what happened was those opportunities that I was talking about where they were not being greedy, they were passing it back. And then when they passed it back, it's like, okay, I guess I'll take the shot. But now everyone's back there and there's no room.
Yeah. Let me clarify what I said there, because Adam pointed it out in the chat that there were a lot of long shots from outside the box. Those 18 shots were inside the box. We had 21 shots total. So 18 inside the box and only 5 on target. So it's just, ooh.
Yeah. No, I don't know.
So based on all of this, and I don't know if there's other things you guys want to talk about as it relates to this game, but based on everything that we've just talked, based on everything that we just talked about, do you feel better and sort of more assured about this team potentially moving in the right direction heading into the game on Friday? Or are you still feeling more like you did as soon as the game was over, when you're like, oh, like, what are we going to do to fix this?
I feel exactly the way I did last week. And so that's kind of like
after this game or after the Hartford game?
No, after the Hartford game, like where
so now you got to say what that is. Yeah. How did you feel?
I mean, I guess I wanted to see just, I don't know. I don't feel like I saw progression against Charlotte. And I think that was the frustrating thing, where I think we hit levels that we've already seen, and sure, that created some chances, but we really didn't look that great, and we really didn't put in a complete performance. And I mean, yeah, I guess, I mean, the potential elephant in the room, I mean, going back to the XG stats and everything, the expected goals stuff from Charlotte having only 1, like, I guess we did defend pretty well. Like Charlotte, I don't know. You guys are saying VTLO is the man of the match with his 1 million double saves. But
listen, I think there's a lot that the defense needs to do. I think the only defender that I've been impressed with at this point is Kilwine. I think that there was another communication error that happened in this game where it was
everyone keeps saying I didn't see a communication error. I honestly thought Barr, and this is what I wanted to talk about, I thought Wharton was not great for Charlotte's goal. But Barr, Wharton, like not closing down the pass, I thought it was just a well-worked goal from Charlotte. Like, I didn't really see anything wrong with it.
There was a lot of standing around, and there was a lot of not tracking back. So it was a good goal. I mean, I'm not going to say it wasn't a good goal, but it was also made possible because we were somewhat lazy. There was a lot of standing around in this game. That was like my thought. Like when it came time to like make passes, you would see guys look up and they'd be like, "There's nobody's moving. Like move."
And I honestly don't know if that's like, I don't know if they don't need, like they had preseason, right? Like, is this just their level? Yeah. Oh yeah. I was like, is this just their level? Like, are they going to get in better fitness as the season goes on? Like, can we expect that, like a change? I don't know, because like I don't want to be like, well, they're just they all look tired, and maybe that'll change, maybe it won't. But that's just I don't know. But it is really concerning because they all do look tired.
If there was a game to have energy, this is it. Like your home opener, fans in the stands. Make something happen, and it was just
it's I don't know, it's also I feel like the expectations of this game were so high, and so not to get a single goal and not to like look like you were hungry out there, it even if it was only slightly like that, it exacerbates the whole thing. It makes you think even worse of the game. And like I said, going out of that game, I thought it was the worst game we've had, and we looked the worst possible. But rewatching stuff and seeing an analysis from people who know the game better than I do, I guess it's not as bad as I thought it was, but it definitely felt the worst out of all these games. Yeah. Charlotte, we haven't beat them at all. How have we not beat Charlotte? How's that a thing? Like, that's stupid. They're not the greatest team. It's just I don't understand it. Like, they're not
stupid.
A fantastic game, our team. So how have we not beat them? And to be up a man near the end there, and not having
it also feels in a lot of ways like to me at least it feels like even though we're 3 games in, we're already being left behind. Like Tampa beats us 3-0, right? Or was it 3-1? 3-0.
3-0.
And then what? Tampa goes on and beats Phoenix, right, or something, and so. When in my mind, it was like, we're going to be challenging for the we're one of the best teams in the East. And now we have, after 3 games, we have 1 point. We don't look that great. Tampa beat us 3-0, and they went out and beat Phoenix. And it's just like, feels like we have a mountain to climb. And we haven't, there have been moments where it's like, all right, Cicerone has a good shot on him. Like Dixon looks lively every once in a while. But like, I don't know. Once again, Dequa didn't really impress me that much. Our midfield looks kind of flat. Our defense isn't filling me with a ton of confidence. I mean, that's the other thing. We always talk about, like, no matter who's in the back line or no matter who's back there, like Lily's defense is going to be great. Haven't kept a clean sheet yet. And, we've given up 5 goals in 3 games. And, that's not good.
Very concerning. I mean, out of all of this, that's my most concerning thing, is the fact that this is not the type of defense we're used to seeing from Lily's side. Like, I did not look up how many goals we had against us in all those games, the first 3 games of the Lily era, but I definitely feel like we're letting in more goals than we ever have, especially compared to like last year, year before that. But like, okay, we haven't talked about it yet. I don't know if we should, but hey, refs, USL, like right before that goal against us, like, hey, that looked like a foul. That looked like maybe a handball. I couldn't really see it that well, but didn't look good. It did not look good. And I feel like multiple people yelling VAR is never a good sign after right before a goal. So,
Yeah. It was a bit weird. I don't know. To me, I could have seen it go either way. And so I'm trying to consciously remove as much bias as possible. But you've definitely seen them given.
Yeah. So Steve just made the point in the chat, and thanks to everybody. There's tons of messages here in the chat. Steve just made the point. Every player that started in defense is new to the Hounds in the system, and I get that, but how long do we give that a pass for? Like 5 games? Like, how long does the defense get to figure out the system before we say, like, we got to try something else because this just isn't working? And I don't know what that number is. Kev, to your point, I think we're currently 2nd from the bottom in the Atlantic table, which again is 3 games. But I get it. But at this point,
like kind of similar to that though, if we still have, hopes and ideas that this is going to be one of the best teams in the East, it's not an infinite season. Like 3 games is still 3 games, and it's I don't know. So it eventually, and I know in the past we've gone on runs, but it's still, then we have to just like hope and expect that we're going to go on some run in the middle of the season. And it's not always that easy.
Yeah.
Todd Wharton out. That's what I'm kidding.
Okay. Okay. No, I will say, like, I didn't think, in terms of one of the things I was thinking about just sort of watching the game and towards the end of the game was, we talked a lot in the offseason about the players that we'd lost and like, okay, like we're bringing in all these guys that are going to like, replace these players that we lost. And really, I think there's only a few guys that were starting last night that I would say would be like quality starters on last year's team or the team before that.
Was it just was it just Griffin and Velarde that were returning? I guess Dequa too, but he didn't really feel like a staple last season.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and yes, VTLO.
Yeah,
and
video,
then
no.
Dover came on late, but
but he didn't start.
But I'm saying in like terms of level of play, like how they actually played. Like I think, VTLO. I'm gonna like call guys out now. VTLO, Kilwine, I think would have made last year's team. I think Griffin would have made last year's team. Maybe not the way he played last night. Cicerone, Perez.
You just love Perez.
Give me a reason not to. Like I'm just saying. Like the dude who showed up so far. So beyond that, I haven't seen enough of the other guys to think that they would have started over somebody like Duba or Mensah or anybody else that we had in that lineup.
And already too, I mean, you're just mentioning the kind of levels that they hit. Once again, I think Griffin, for his age, for his experience level, and for what he's being asked to do in the midfield, I think he still has a lot of upside. He has a lot of room to grow, and I think he's still a really good player and should be in the lineup if he has the right supporting cast around him in the midfield. But he's our captain, last in the previous game, and it also kind of maybe puts a nod to maybe, especially in the absence of Forbes, there's a lack of leadership and commander-like, presence on the field that kind of knits everything together. I mean, we talked about last year, the likes of Vonkie Azil or Ryan James, being Lily's mouth. Not that he needs a mouth on the field because he's loud enough for it, but to help carry out those instructions. Griffin's definitely not going to be that mouth, and I mean, maybe he is a strong leader in the dressing room. I mean, it seems like people like him and he's really chill and he's cool and that's great. And maybe that works for this team and this group of players. But I thought I remember seeing it and thinking initially okay, yeah, he's a good player. I like him. He seems he's a good person. But then I'm like, but really? Like Danny Griffin, captain of this team?
Listen, I asked Lily at the press conference last week. I said, no Kenny, how do you replace that? And he just sort of laughed it off, it's really hard to replace Kenny's leadership, and we got a lot of guys that are going to step up. And it was like your typical,
sure,
it was your answer. But
was Josh Gatt injured or anything? He wasn't on the bench at all, from what I'm seeing. I noticed he did come in, so I was like, oh, curious.
Maybe Lily was upset that he was harping at the refs at the end of the Hartford game.
I mean, that's what Josh Gatt does. I mean, we've heard that from multiple sources and seen it.
Yeah. I don't know.
So just kind of wrapping up my thoughts on this game. I still think we have the raw materials to make a very well functioning team that can eventually gel and click later in the season. It's just they're not gelling and clicking right now.
Let me ask you guys this. And this is obviously we're 3 games in, so none of this is actually weighted, but this is based purely on feeling at this point. What do you think is more, considering how the team looks right now, what do you think is more likely? That we easily don't make the playoffs, that we are battling for a 4th playoff spot, or we are battling for the top of our division?
I mean, based
Josh,
off of nothing other than these 3 games, obviously, and
yeah.
I find it hard to believe that we won't pull it together and make the playoffs. I don't think we'll be battling to get into the playoffs, but I don't see any reason to believe that we will be battling for the top.
Kev, do you agree with that?
Generally, yeah. I mean, I think to just echo what Josh just said, Lily's track record with never missing the playoffs. As I mentioned, like individually, I think a lot of these players are good, and so that kind of combining with each other, Lily's experience and quality and management, and the raw materials being there, I have to believe that this will eventually come good. But yeah, I mean,
but I think
it needs to happen sooner than later.
I agree with you guys. I don't think, based on what we're seeing right now, I think we make the playoffs. I think we pull it together, but battling for the top, short of us, going on some crazy runs, which obviously could happen. But that also, I think, shows where the mindset is just 3 games into the season, where we're like, Tampa, like we got Tampa, we're going to take it. They beat us the first game, no big deal. Then you draw to Hartford when you probably should have won, and you lose to Charlotte at home. You start to look around and go, there are some other really good teams in the division, and like this may not be as easy as we thought.
Go ahead, Josh.
Okay. I was going to say, like, again, this is totally the reason why I say we'll make the playoffs, and not that we'll be battling into the playoffs, has nothing to do with what I've seen on the field. Because right now, like, with no history involved, with not knowing Lily, with not knowing what he's capable of producing or getting his guys to produce, or any of that type of stuff, there's no reason to believe that we make the playoffs. Like, there's nothing on that field right now that makes me go, oh yeah, we'll get it. Like, this is completely based off of having faith in the system and what we've seen in the past. Yeah, it very well could be battling for the playoffs, but I don't think so.
I keep thinking about, I don't know. I'm frustrating myself in this conversation because I'm constantly like just contradicting myself. Because every time I lean into them a bit hard, I think of just from perspective that you could look at it and things could be a lot more rosy. For example, I mean, yeah, we're 2 minutes away from a win against Hartford, where Charlotte goes down 10 men with 25 minutes left, and they score off of, really, to me, one of their only clear-cut chances. In a different, if we play that game 100 times, maybe we at least draw, 70% of the time and, win the other 25 or something. So, in a game, in a season of moments, it feels like we keep falling on the wrong side of them. I don't think it takes a huge jump to all of a sudden where, we get 3 points against Hartford and at least a draw against Charlotte.
All right, let's put this game to bed, and we're going to take Joe's cue here, who is so excited for the Red Bull match. Guys, we head to New York, New Jersey, wherever we're headed on Friday, to play the Baby Bulls at MSU Soccer Park at 7:30 p.m. 7:30, maybe 7. I need to go back and double check that. Somebody check my time and tell me why I'm wrong. But it's Friday night. So don't think Saturday soccer day. Nope, you're going to miss it. So Friday night, watch the game. The Baby Bulls have played 5 games so far. We only have 3. They played 5. They have 2 draws to Charleston. They've already played Charleston twice. So them in the Battery, they drew 1-1 and then 2-2 most recently. They lost to Hartford in Miami, and they beat Loudoun. So right now, I went back and I watched some of the highlights from their games. They got a quick top 3. They got Mitchell and Lacavara. Our defense is going to have to be good. Otherwise, this has the potential to be a sort of high scoring match. Hopefully the Hounds can put a few away as well. But
this is homecoming for Kilwine, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, he played for them last year, so homecoming. But yeah.
Right. Okay.
So my question to you guys is, I think obviously we want to see points because we're going to start running out of time to get points. But beyond that, what are you most hoping to see in this game? Like, is it a certain stat? Is it a shutout? Is it, proof that the defense is gelling? Like, what are we looking for?
I feel like what we've seen so far with the teams we played is really good defense from those teams and able to shut us down. And this game has the potential not to have that. Like, you have a lot of young guys. Like, I don't feel like Red Bulls are known for the defense. So this could very well be a game where we actually get to see goals happen for the Hounds, confidence built there, and just be able to see that link up play that they're trying to build and that they're going for this season. So I don't think it's going to be 0-0, and it probably will be now. But I do think we're probably going to let in a goal as well. Like, I don't expect us to have a clean sheet after this, but I would be very surprised if the Hounds don't put at least 2 in.
Kev, what are you looking for in this game?
In the past game, especially when Charlotte goes down to 10 men, it just felt like too often we didn't, when we had the ball, we didn't know how to, we didn't have a plan of how we were going to get it in the back of their net. And it felt like a lot of the time we were just kind of hoping and guessing and, give it to Cicerone or give it to, Dixon, and they'll do something with it. Which, I've enjoyed watching Dixon and Cicerone and Williamson so far with little individual moments, but it's too much of a reliance on that. So I don't know. I want to see more of a kind of connected idea of not forcing things when they're not on, but then also playing with some urgency when we need to. And I don't know, it could be just something, everyone's still trying to figure out what Lily wants them to do. And I'm hoping over this game and the next few, that starts becoming a lot more clear and obvious.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'd like to just see us keep saying progressing, because I think all of us sort of don't want to accept the fact that this team has hit their ceiling yet. So I think just more movement, more communication, a couple of these things that it seems like they're trying to do start to pay off, and they're going to start paying off at some point. Josh, I think you're right. I think this is the team that you got a shot to put a few away. And maybe this is a crazy fun times game that we've been talking about for years, where the Hounds win like 4-2 or something like that. And we're just like, what just happened? But I think, especially this early, I want to keep seeing progress. I guess the question in my mind is, how long can we keep saying that we want to see progress before we're like, okay, like we should be beating teams the way Tampa beats teams now? Is it 5 games? Is it 10 games? Like, I don't know. So
we should be used to this by now. We should know, like, okay, 7 games in is when Lily hits a stride.
I mean, we always have the rule, like, 10 games? Don't look at the table until 10 games in or something like that. So, like, it's going to take a while for us to actually know what this team is. And 3 games is, not nearly long enough. So but I will say, like, 5 games in, you kind of should have a feel for, like, what to expect.
So 5 games would be this Friday against New York Red Bulls and then Wednesday against Loudoun. So we don't got much longer to figure that out.
If we draw this game and, like, don't beat Loudoun, like, I think in the back of my mind, that's what I've been playing on, right? Like, so Red Bulls played 5 games. The only one they win is against Loudoun. Like, and historically, we've like, well, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I assume we beat Loudoun last year because it's Loudoun. But so, like, in my head, I'm like, you know what? Fine. These first 3 or maybe 4 games are going to be frustrating, and we're going to struggle. We're going to kind of try to find our identity. But at least we'll have 3 points against Loudoun. Like, if we don't get, if we don't beat Red Bulls, and if we don't get a result against Loudoun, then I'm looking for that button that Josh said hasn't been pushed yet.
Listen, I'm going to ask you guys for a score prediction, as ridiculous as it sounds. I just said that I thought it would be 4-2. Based on what we've seen, I think Yeah, but I'm going to change that. I'm going to say I think I'm much more realistic is like a 3-3, where we're like, oh, we do have some offensive power, but we still got a lot of problems we got to dress up, and it's still just 1 point. So I'm going to say 3-3. Josh, what are you saying?
I mean, I'm going to be the optimistic one, and I'm going to say 3-2.
Kaz?
Obviously.
Man, I like both your games a lot more than mine.
0-1.
I mean,
0-1.
This is my optimism. Is 1-1. I think it'll be. I think it'll be 1-1. I think we'll get a goal, but the search
I don't like
for
your reality.
I know. The search for a clean sheet continues.
That would be frustrating.
We have -4 goals right now. Sorry, I just looked because I was curious about Loudoun and their history, and I was like, "Oh, that's depressing."
That's funny.
Our goal differential is -4. Well, I don't.
But it's all right.
I don't want to end like this.
Lily has never not made the playoffs. We're 2 minutes away from beating Hartford, and this is the 5. Out of the 100 times, this is the one game that we don't beat Charlotte in this scenario.
Well, I mean,
we never beat Charlotte.
We've never beat Charlotte. So no. Really say that
in this scenario, like
Gotcha.
our XG was 2, theirs was 1. They go down to 10 men with 25 minutes to go. We don't score. This is our home opener. I mean, I don't know, I'm saying. All of this is really evidence for how bad our performance was.
Well, that's what I was just gonna say. Like, we're pointing at all of this stuff, but then there's still the product on the field.
We'll be good. Okay. We'll be good. We'll have this conversation again after Loudon. We'll have this
we gotta leave on a high note. So I think the high note is like in
Lily will make the playoffs.
In Lily, we trust until we learn otherwise, because he hasn't let us down yet. So I think we got to stick with that.
And this was the best game of the season so far. So,
for Lily.
According to Lily.
But, immediately what I think of, Kev, is your whole stance of like when the team gets down, he's always the one that's like, nah, it wasn't that bad. You guys did all
true.
right.
Yeah,
and when they're really high, he's like, you guys did awful. You got to lock it down. And so when he's like, this is the best game of the season, I'm like, ooh, no, guys, that's not great.
In a little bit of defense there, when he says that, okay, when he goes to the press conference, you're right. But you can tell how long he keeps the players on the field after the game. And honestly, he didn't keep them that long. Like, it wasn't like a situation after this game where he was like yelling at them for 20 minutes. And he had no time limit because there was no fans coming on the field for autographs because of COVID. So like he could have kept them out there for, half an hour yelling at them, and he didn't. So that's a good sign, I think.
But see, like as a parent, I'm like, I go the opposite direction. Like, is he so disappointed? He's like, I don't even want to talk to you right now. Like, I'm so disgusted. So I don't know. I don't know.
Paycheck depends on stuff. I feel like, unlike being a parent, he can't just throw his hands up in the air going like, well, I guess
that's right.
I failed.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe we'll have to ask Liz to ask him that at the press conference tomorrow.
Jeez.
Were you just disappointed in the guys? Is that why you didn't keep them on the field? Okay. Let's wrap this up, guys. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to talk about in this one?
It's good to have a home game, even if it was a crappy one like that, as far as the results. But it was awesome to see everyone at Highmark Stadium, have fun, hang out, lose my voice, as you can tell during this podcast. And can't wait to do it again.
Agreed. Looking forward to many more fun games at Highmark Stadium to come, for sure. Obviously, best of luck to the guys this Friday as they travel to New York. We will have another show between that one and Loudoun, so we will recap the Red Bulls game and go from there. Thanks to everybody who listened and joined us, and thanks to everybody who left comments in the chat. Tons of comments this week, which was fantastic. Lots of great stuff. We really appreciate it. Make sure everybody heads over to mongoals.com, click on support the show to become a Patreon follower. We're still bouncing around ideas for what it is we're going to get for our Patreon followers. We talked about scarves. I found a couple places that do some sick hats. We gotta nail it down, but we will come up with something, I promise. And it will be just like everything else we put together. So, weekly reminder that Black Lives Matter, and obviously a huge thanks to our sponsor, Roughneck Scarves, official scarf supplier to USL, MLS, and US Soccer. And custom scarves for your group or team at roughneckscarves.com. Tired of the same old uniform or cookie cutter template from Nike or Adidas? Looking for a unique, completely custom kit for youth club, Sunday league squad, adult, or even pro team? Icarus FC can help you create the kit of your dreams at an affordable price. Let them help you design your new custom kit today at icarusfc.com. Looking for more great USL news, head over to the bgn.fm, where we've now got over 100 fans that are writing and podcasting about the beautiful game. Lots of great features that went up on the site this week. Check them out at bgn.fm. Otherwise, thanks, everybody. We will talk to you very, very soon.
See ya.
Later.